Long ago in the land of Egypt, a baby boy was born. He was special. His name was Moses. His people, the Israelites, were enslaved. They needed a leader. Moses grew up in the Pharaoh's palace. He learned about power. He learned about leadership, but he never forgot his people. One day Moses saw an Egyptian hurting an Israelite. He got angry. He made a mistake. He had to run away. Moses was now alone. He was far from home. He was a shepherd in the desert, but he would soon be called upon to lead. Life in the desert was hard. Moses spent his days watching sheep. He felt lost and alone. But God had a plan. One day Moses saw a bush. The bush was on fire, but it was not burning up. A voice called out from the bush. It was God. God spoke to Moses. He told him to go back to Egypt. God wanted Moses to free the Israelites. Moses was afraid, but he trusted God. Moses returned to Egypt. He stood up to the Pharaoh. He demanded the Israelites be set free. The burning bush was a turning point. It was a sign. God chose Moses to be a leader. He gave Moses a difficult task. Moses went before Pharaoh. He told him, "Let my people go." Pharaoh refused. He did not believe in Moses' God. God sent plagues upon Egypt. The Nile turned to blood. Locusts filled the sky, but Pharaoh still refused to listen. Moses never gave up. He kept pleading with Pharaoh. He knew God was with him. He trusted in God's plan. Pharaoh remained stubborn. He hardened his heart against God. The final plague was the worst. The firstborn sons of Egypt died. Finally, Pharaoh let the Israelites go. They left Egypt in a hurry. Moses led them towards freedom, but Pharaoh changed his mind. He chased after the Israelites with his army. The Israelites were trapped between the army and the Red Sea. Moses raised his staff. God parted the Red Sea. The Israelites walked across on dry land. The parting of the Red Sea was a miracle. It showed God's power. It showed God's love for his people. Moses led the Israelites to Mount Sinai. God made a covenant with them. He gave them the 10 Commandments. The 10 Commandments were rules to live by. They were a guide for a good life. They showed the Israelites how to honor God. Moses became their teacher. He explained the commandments. He helped them understand God's law. Section 6, the 10 Commandments. The Israelites were free, but they were still learning. They were a new nation. They needed God's guidance. One day, Moses went up Mount Sinai. He was receiving instructions from God. The Israelites grew impatient. They forgot about God. They built a golden calf. They worshipped it as an idol. They broke God's covenant. Moses came down from the mountain. He saw their sin. He was furious. He smashed the tablets of the 10 Commandments. Section 7, the golden calf. The worship of the golden calf was a betrayal. The Israelites turned away from God. They disobeyed his commandments. God was angry. He punished the Israelites for their sin. They wandered in the desert for 40 years. Moses continued to lead them. He never gave up on his people. He prayed for them. He taught them. But Moses would not enter the promised land. Section 8, the price of disobedience. Moses made a mistake. When the Israelites were thirsty, he struck the rock twice. He disobeyed God. Because of this, God punished Moses. He would not let him enter the promised land. Moses was heartbroken, but he remained faithful. He knew God was just. He accepted God's judgment. Before he died, Moses appointed Joshua as the new leader. He blessed the Israelites. He told them to trust in God. Section 9, a legacy remembered. Moses never entered the promised land, but his story teaches us many lessons. It teaches us about faith. It teaches us about leadership. Moses was a great leader. He was a prophet. He was a lawgiver, but he was also human. He made mistakes. The story of Moses reminds us that God keeps his promises. He always forgives, and he never abandons his people.